So we are just going to continue from where we had stopped in the previous class. We had stopped at cellular internet network. So we will be seeing about talking about cellular internet network, which is the internet which we use on our mobile phones, on our cell phones. Just a sec. I don't know what's the issue with this. Right. So we are going to see what are satellites. So first of all, to understand cellular networks, it is very important for us to understand the use of satellites. That is because, did I share my screen? Let me check. It is very important to understand the use of satellites because satellites are the things which enable cellular communication possible, which make cellular communication possible. So when you are able to place calls to someone, when you call your friend through your mobile phone, through your cell phone, it is not like your mobile phone gets directly connected to the satellite, because that is a costly affair. Directly establishing a link between the mobile and the satellite is a costly affair. So we will be seeing how it is done. So firstly, it is important for us to understand what is a satellite. Now you have already studied this in your previous classes about satellite. So let's see, they are large objects that orbit another large object like a planet. Like you already know, we have natural satellites, we have artificial satellites. So natural satellites are what? Moon, okay, which revolves around in the any moon of a planet which revolves around the planet. Like our moon is the natural satellite of Earth. Similarly, Phobos and Deimos are the natural satellite of Mars. So this way we have various planets and their natural satellites. And for Earth, we also have some artificial satellites which are used for various purposes, for communication, for defense, communication, television, the whole interconnection of satellites. So a communications satellite is what are going to talk about here. So it is a station in space that is used for telecommunication, radio, television signals, and so on. So all these things are there. What are the technologies used? GSM, that is Global System for Mobile Communications, and CDMA, that is Code Division Multiple Access. Now, it is not necessary to learn about these two because they are very big concepts and they are actual chapters in terms of networking, and that is beyond the uh, syllabus, beyond the scope of the syllabus of our textbook, of our course. So you just need to know what is the full form. So you can just see the full form here, full form of GSM and full form of CDMA. That is more important. So which type of satellites are used? Geostationary satellite. That is, you can see in this animation that the satellites are directly focused over a certain point on the Earth, certain point of Earth. So the speed of its orbit is equal to the speed of rotation of Earth around its axis. That is the reason why both appear to be the satellite appears to be stationary, but actually it is not stationary. It is moving along with the curvature of the Earth only. But the thing is, it appears to be stationary as it is always focused over a certain point. So it is synchronous with respect to Earth. 3 to 4 satellites are enough to cover the Earth. Circular orbit, satellite visibility is 24 hours. Yes, you can see the satellites for 24 hours. And the altitude is some 36,000 kilometers above the Earth's surface. Applications: TV, radio broadcast, weather forecast, backbone for telephone networks. This is most important, and this is the thing which we are going to basically see over here. That is, this is what we need for placing calls, accessing internet. We use the cellular network. Issues are shading of the signals. That is, you might have noticed this many times as you are watching television through your satellite cable TV. What happens is whenever there is heavy rain or there are clouds in the sky, the signal is lost. That's because there is an obstruction between the satellite and high latency. That is, it is latency actually stands for delay in transmission. Of course, it will be there. Signals are sent from the ground station or earth station to the satellite. This takes some time, and then again it takes some times to come back. That is, this is the whole time needed for a round trip communication. Transferring a satellite into geostationary earth orbit is very expensive and cannot be used for small mobile phones. That is, our mobile phones are not powerful enough to send signals to the satellite, because to send the signal far away you need more power, right? And hence our mobile devices are devices with very limited resource and a small uh, power source, that is a small battery, which is not sufficient for connecting directly to the satellites. So what is done, you can just see in this animation, our Earth surface is divided into some logical hexagonal regions, right? And each hexagonal region just represents a small section of a honeycomb. You might have seen a honeycomb. Every cell, honeycomb is also composed of cells, and every cell is hexagonal in shape. So our Earth surface, our localities, our neighborhoods, they all are divided into the geographical regions of the continents. They are divided into these cells, right? And these cells, you cannot see it. There is no boundary demarcated for that. How are cells determined? By these towers. Every cell will have a cell phone tower which determines its boundary. That is, this tower which you can see, its signals are effective within this particular range, within this particular cell. Likewise, you have a neighboring cell which has its own cell phone tower, again another cell which has its own cell phone tower. Now, mostly rural areas don't have the infrastructure. They may not have that many towers as compared to the denser urban areas. That is why whenever you are traveling by a train, you might have noticed that uh, this whenever you are traveling by a train, there is loss of signals depending upon the number of people, right? So, sorry, depending upon the number of towers which are located or situated in that region. So if and the moment your train is all has entered a residential area, or it has entered a region, or the station is just about to arrive, it is just approaching, you again get your signal back. That is because a station is what it comes within the periphery of a city, and there are mobile towers which are expected there. These are not small stations in the villages which I am talking about, but these are some medium sized to large stations. Users with cell phones can easily intercept radio signals from these towers. So these towers emanate radio signals, and we know that radio waves are omnidirectional. They propagate in all directions. So hence, users with cell phones, if you have a cell phone, you can now buy this house, because there would be people in the house. They might be having a cell phone. You can also, if a cell phone is within this range of this cell phone tower, it will easily intercept the signal. You can see it over here, like this is the curvature of the earth. There is a mobile tower which is emanating signals, okay, the radio signal, and it is being intercepted by anything which comes in its vicinity. Now this is a satellite downstream and upstream link to and from cell phone tower. So you can see that we have a satellite, and this is one cell which I'm talking about, which has a cell phone tower, and these cell phone towers also have various devices like repeaters, wireless access points, right? All the required that all required is also here, and it also has a small ground station, that is an earth station, which which is a huge dish antenna which establishes a communication with the satellite. And Downstream means satellite to the ground station or the earth station, that is downstream link, and ground station to the satellite means upstream. So I'll just tell you how it is. Just a second. If it is satellite to ground station means the dish antenna, that is known as downstream link. And ground station to satellite, that is your upstream link, right? And this is a gateway link. We already know that. Now what we need to do is you have to connect your cell phone network with the existing telephone and the DSL network, right? So how that is done, so you can see it over here, that one end, now there is another ground station which is actually connected to this satellite via gateway link. Why gateway? Because now this is going to prove as a gateway that is into a different type of a network, that is your actual DSL, the broadband network, the telephone network, and so on. So ISDN, DSL network, cable, broadband, all this is over here, and it has a different architecture than cell phone network. But still you can, you know that if you can connect to internet using the hotspot, you can connect to internet using your Wi-Fi also. And if somebody is, if your friend, like sorry, let's not take that example, let's take this example. Like right now I am connected to you all through the DSL. I'm using a Wi-Fi modem which is connected to the ADSL modem, and this modem is actually connected to the DSL network, the DSL broadband network, right? And which is based also connected to the internet using the cell phone network. So how is it possible? Because of this gateway link. And here we have the base station gateway, which divides the connections into two. One goes into the PSTN, that is public switched telephone network. This is for voice calls. And the other end goes into the actual internet cloud, the whole internet backbone. Understood? So this is how your cell phone network works. So your phone can be connected to the rest of the internet through this connection. So you can see that your phone is not directly connected to the satellite. It gets connected to the nearby cell phone towers. Cell phone towers have equipments, and they, even if you don't see a huge dish antenna like this, they have equipment which establish a direct upstream connection with this satellite. So they send and receive signals. And now here, this ground station to satellite is which type of a connection? It takes place using microwave links. Using microwaves. Why? Microwaves has more energy. You know, you need more energy if you want to travel further. Okay, if signal has to travel farther, it needs more energy. And because microwaves have higher frequency, you will always see that as the frequency increases, the energy also increases, right? Low frequency waves don't need that much of energy. They are low energy waves which can travel much farther with less energy. This is why cell phones are devices which can easily communicate. You can easily communicate through your friends using your cell phones because they don't use much power. But if you have to connect to the satellite, you will be needing more energy, more power, which is provided by these equipments at the cell phone towers, right? So you can see just how we are connected. You can see a cell phone and we have the www. This laptop represents the World Wide Web. So now if you want to connect to it, how you will do? So your cell phone is connected to the cell phone tower. Connection established with ISP, that is, your cell tower is established or it is situated, it is installed by the service provider. Like Jio will have its own cell phone tower, Airtel will have its own cell phone tower. Got it? Now there you have the access point or router. The cell phone towers actually have access point and routers which are providing connection to the World Wide Web. Then if you want to just open Google or you want to open any page, how do? You place a request whenever you use your browser on your mobile phone, right? So it just places a request using WAP, that is wireless application protocol, instead of HTTP, because now you are on a different platform. It goes to the gateway server, and the gateway server establishes a connection with the World Wide Web. Then data is received in the HTTP form, and then this data is received by the cell phone in XML form. You already know that what is a gateway. I had explained in my previous videos that gateway basically does what? Protocol conversion. So it converts one protocol into the other. So that WAP protocol is communication through WAP is being transferred to World Wide Web, data received in the HTTP form, but it goes back in the WAP form to the mobile phone. So here data received in HTTP form, that is in the form of an HTML page, and it is received in the XML form over here. Some differences between 3G and 4G. 3G is an older technology, whereas 4G is a newer technology. So they are actually various flavors of your cell phone technology, cell phone internet, cellular internet. It started with 1G. We could only place calls through 1G first. Then came 2G, which was we could send SMS. Okay, and also multimedia messaging service was also introduced, and little internet, I mean like internet speed was very less. Then came 3G, then came 4G. So these all are like first generation to second generation, third generation, fourth generation, and fifth generation, 5G. So slower speeds in 3G but faster speeds in 4G. In 3G the speeds are up to 3.1 Mbps. In 4G it is up to 50 Mbps, up to 50 Mbps, which is the theoretical speed. Actual speed might be much less. So 10 times faster, but still it is much faster than 3G. Why? Because in 3G, if you want to watch any YouTube video, even in 144 pixels, it takes a lot of time, whereas it doesn't take a lot of time in 4G. So 4GX or 4G LTE beyond 400 Mbps. 4GX is actually a specific technology used by an Australian company, Telstra. Okay, so they have invented this 4GX, which is actually kind of, you can say it is a brand name, given it is a technology which is exclusive to that Australian company only, and is what long-term evolution. Already explained to you what is LTE. It is actually one of the flavors of 4G. It is a 4G technology which is preferred and favored by most cell phone manufacturing companies. So if this is done, speeds can reach beyond 400 Mbps. 3G is available in mostly rural places, rural areas, right? To access the, and 4G is available in densely populated areas, mostly urban areas. So you might have noticed that if you are going to a village, most students these days are facing problems with internet connection because they have visited their villages, they've gone to villages, and there is only 3G or even less than that. Compatible with older models of phones, whereas 4G can be used in newer models. Your handset has to be 4G enabled. Belong to the 2000s. This is a benchmark of 2010. Right from 2010, 4G started becoming popular. 5G is the latest technology. India hasn't entered into 5G, but Reliance Jio is trying to enter in, and most probably this year it will be launched also. Speeds up to 5 Gbps. Entire Game of Thrones series can be downloaded in 10 seconds. Just imagine that. Service providers now are Telstra and Optus. These both are Australian companies. So you can just see. So Australian company Telstra is making progress day by day, and it is already operational there. And Optus brought us SMS and picture messaging. 3G was all about mobile internet. 4G made streaming and sharing part of everyday life. 5G stands for fifth generation as and is the next leap forward in mobile network technology. Downloads that take seconds, not minutes. Seamless streaming, real-time gaming, a future where devices are interconnected. You can just, I'll provide you this URL. You can just all this information has been taken from this website. Okay, because these tags, they in one line, these were one liners which just defined what was there in 2G, what was there in 3G and 4G and 5G. So I just like that and I pasted it. If you want more information, you can visit this website. 5G is the fifth generation mobile network. It is a new global wireless standard after 1G, 2G, 3G and 4G networks. It enables a new kind of network that is designed to connect virtually everyone and everything together, including machines, objects and devices. That is IoT, Internet, which you have studied, to connect every device with the internet so that our life becomes very comfortable and we are able to gain any type of information right uh, by touching that device, right? 5G wireless technology is meant to deliver higher multi-Gbps peak data speeds, ultra low latency, that is low delay, more reliability, massive network capacity, increased availability, more uniform user experience to more users. Actually, what I had seen a few days ago was right now we have cell phone towers, large, huge cell phone towers. And what happens is if you are sitting in a basement or inside the house or somewhere in a packed room, the network is not good. The network reception quality is not good. So with 5G, these problems will also be solved. Actually, they will be having more number of towers, but those towers are going to be very small towers, which could be placed at the terraces. And that would cover small areas, the size of the cell, the hexagonal cell, okay, for which a tower is there. So the size of, we'll have smaller cells and each cell would have one 5G tower, which would be much smaller and manageable as compared to the 4G tower. And because nearly in a locality we are going to have multiple such towers, hence reception is going to be better. Higher performance and improved efficiency empower new user experiences and connects new industries. Why 5G is different? Service area is divided into small geographical areas called cells. All 5G wireless devices are connected to the internet and telephone network by radio waves through a local antenna in the cell. That is a small antenna in the cell. The main advantage of the new networks is that they will have greater bandwidth, giving higher download speeds, usually up to 10 gigabits per second, that is 10 Gbps. Due to increased bandwidths, it is expected the networks will not exclusively serve cell phones like existing cellular networks, but also be used as general internet service providers for laptops and desktop computers as well, competing with existing ISPs such as cable internet. So you can, and you can also see Internet of Things, machine to machine areas. That is, this is a drive to connect all devices, whether your desktop PC, whether your laptop, your smartphone, your watch, your smart watch, okay, your RFID tags, the radio frequency identification tags, okay, any smart device which you are using at home. So virtually any device can be connected to this network. 4G cell phones are not able to use because we need new 5G enabled wireless devices. Increased speed is achieved partly by using high frequency radio waves than previous cellular networks, and because high frequency radio waves are towards the microwave end of the spectrum, hence you need more energy, and because of that exact line of sight communication is needed, hence more number of cell phone towers in a particular area are needed. That is, infrastructure has to be heavily improved. However, higher frequency radio waves have a shorter useful physical range requiring smaller geographical cells. That's what I said. If you have smaller cells, managing these towers would become very easy. Right now, what is it? A huge cell with one cell phone tower. Instead of that, that particular cell is going to be divided into 2 or 3 cells with individual towers. So distance between two towers is going to be reduced. That would be purely line of sight communication, and hence obstruction is reduced, because of which the frequent disconnection problem, call drop problem, or the network loss problem, that will also be solved. For wide service, 5G networks operate on up to 3 frequency bands: low, medium, and high. So a 5G network will be composed of networks of up to 3 different type of cells, each requiring specific antenna designs. So what is happening? They will be here, the cell design is going to be variable. Sometimes it will be small, sometimes it would be large, depending upon the requirement everywhere. This was all about your various types of internet connections. So now we are going to move towards the second part of our lecture, and that is about TCP/IP. I have already started with this. So in the previous class, we had already discussed about TCP/IP, what it is. I had uploaded an offline lecture link in the group. It was actually supposed to be an online lecture, but because of network issues, I had recorded this and sent to you. So we were talking about IP addresses. So what are IP addresses? I'm not going to repeat all that. Please go back to that. If you really want to understand that, you have to visit the channel and watch those videos. Now IPv4, we have to discuss this. We know that there are two types of IP addresses. One is IPv4 and one is IPv6. Right? Why? Because some number of addresses were created. IPv4 were actually 32-bit addresses, and they could support 2 raised to the power 32, that is around 4 billion plus different addresses, right? But some mistake was done in the beginning, because of which we had to introduce IPv6, which can create another, which is sufficient for supporting the whole internet. So let's see how. Usually computers communicate through the internet. The packet transmitted by the sending computer may pass through several LANs or WANs before reaching the destination computer. We already know that. For this level of communication, we need a global addressing scheme called the logical addressing. Today, we use the term IP address to mean a logical address in the network layer of the TCP/IP protocol suite, and these IP addresses are 32 bits in length, which gives us a maximum of 2 raised to the power 32 addresses, not this. And these are referred to as IPv4, that is IP Internet Protocol version 4 addresses. So let's see how it is done. So we have address space for that purpose. A protocol such as IPv4 that defines addresses has an address space. An address space is the total number of addresses used by the protocol. That is total number of addresses which could be assigned to every individual device, whether it is your computer or your smartphone. So if any protocol uses n bits to define an address, so total combinations would be 2 raised to the power n, because bits are what, either 0 or 1. That is, only 2 digits are used. So if you raise this 2 to the power of n, we get 2 raised to the power n different addresses, right? So 2 raised to the power 32 will give us more than 4 billion addresses. That is this number. This means that theoretically, if there are no restrictions, more than 4 billion devices could be connected to the internet. Actual number is much less. We'll see why. Because of some restrictions which are imposed. Now, I have already explained this, that what are the different notations of an IP address. So this is the binary notation, and one is the dotted decimal notation. So this is how an IP address looks like. Class full addressing. This is what we are going to discuss mainly. IPv4 addressing at its beginning, inception, means when it was actually created, designers thought of dividing the addresses into different classes. It is now becoming obsolete because now there is an internet boom and many people are there are millions and millions of hosts which are getting connected every day. So this classful addressing is not sufficient for providing IP addresses to all devices, right? So it is now becoming obsolete. In classful addressing, the address space is divided into five classes: A, B, C, D, and E. Each class occupies some part of the address space, right? So these are the classes. You can see 5 classes. Class A, address is assigned 1.0.0 this number, and every, as you can see, one of the numbers exceeds 255. So the first address, class A, takes up these many addresses. Second, class B takes up how many addresses? These many addresses, right? So then class C, class D, and class E. Number of blocks and block size. One problem with classful addressing is that each class is divided into fixed number of blocks. Blocks means collection or groups of addresses, right? So number of blocks in class A was 128. The block size is that is each block will have these many addresses. That is 16 million plus addresses. I'll explain this meaning a little later. You can see class B, number of blocks are less. Block size is also less. Class C, number of blocks are more. Block size is even less. And D and E have one block only with these many address space. Uses of each IPv4 class address space. Class A addresses were designed for large organizations with a large number of attached hosts or routers. So we're talking about large companies, devices, class A. And mid-size organizations, they were assigned class B addresses. And small organizations, they were assigned class C addresses. Class D addresses were designed for multicasting. We'll see what is multicasting in a short while. Each address in this class is used to define one group of hosts on the internet. The internet authorities wrongly predicted a need for these many groups. This never happened and many addresses were wasted here. And lastly, class E addresses were reserved for future use. Only a few were used. Another waste of addresses. So these addresses couldn't be used anywhere else because already these classes were fixed. So what is the flaw in this design? A block in class A address is too large for almost any organization. That is, you cannot find any organization which has more than this number. I mean 16 million plus addresses. No organization exceeds this limit. So again, what happens is some of the addresses in this class, they are wasted. Same way, some of them are wasted in B class, some of them are wasted in C class, and most are wasted in D and E class, whereas they could have been sufficient to be provided to everybody. So that is the reason why a block in class C is too small for many organizations, so that is again wasted. So what happened is, now I'll explain to you what is multicast. Firstly, one thing which is known as unicast. Just take a look at this GIF animation. Okay, let me just, yes. Take a look here. This is unicast, that is one device to one device, right? Multicast, one device to more than one devices. And broadcast, one device to all devices. Fine. You should understand that if we have a network here, we have one computer which is connected via a hub or a switch. This is a diagram of a switch, and it is connected to 4 different computers or 4 different hosts. So A, B, C, D, and E. So if A has to send any data to D, A to D, that is only one-to-one communication. This is known as unicast. Broadcast means A to all the devices. So all the devices will receive the data packet, which is known as broadcast. And the third one is multicast. What is multicast? Multicast means if A has to send the information on few devices, all only to certain devices which are multicast enabled, which are designed for listening to the source. Only to few devices like A to D or A to B, A to E, right? So that is known as multicast. See this animation once again. This is unicast. Students, I would just see this animation. Let this pass on because I'll be uploading this also. So this is multicast communication. I think we should stop now because this noise is really going to disrupt my upload on the internet. And this is broadcast, where data are broadcast. Data packet sent to the hub is broadcast to all the devices in the network. Multicast, you can see that it is only being sent to 2 devices, not all the devices. This is one-to-one. This is one to many, that is but not all, and the final one is one to all. That's all in our class, and I'll be meeting you again in the next class. Please follow all the instructions and also please watch all the previous lectures.